Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Illustration Department podcast. My name is Giuseppe Castellano. In this podcast, I talk to folks in illustration, graphic design, publishing, animation, and other creative fields about their work, the lessons they've learned, and the bumps and bruises they've experienced along the way. In this episode, my guest is Matt Curtius, illustrator at Gina and Matt, and educator at the Tyler School of Art and Architecture. Is social media really a tool for illustrators? While some swear by it, others think it is at best useless. Matt and I discuss. Among the topics, Matt tells us how he and his wife, Gina Triplett, make art together. He explains what it means to work within creative boundaries. And Matt talks about the benefit of an active practice of making. I hope you enjoy our conversation. But you sound good. Wow.
Good to hear.
Wow, technology works right off the bat.
I'm getting like a very minor echo of my own voice on my end. Is that coming through on your end? Is that going to sound okay for you?
I don't hear it.
Sweet.
This is a relatively new platform that I'm still kind of familiarizing myself with. But if you look to the right-hand side, you'll see your name. Like you'll see participants in the upper right corner, and then you just click on that. You'll see your name, and there should be an option down below your name where it's like echo cancellation.
Okay.
Honestly, you're fine. So I don't hear it, so it won't record, basically, unless it really bothers you.
I'm looking at the options here. I see an Apple. I see a Chrome icon, 16 kilohertz, 720, yep. 30 FPS.
And then click on that little arrow to the right-hand side, like next to 30 FPS. Click on that, and then it should open up a couple of options down below. Well, really one, echo cancellation, lossless audio. See it?
It's not. It's giving me some things that are related to my Bose headphones, so maybe that's just having to do with the fact that I'm on those.
Yeah.
But
okay.
That's fine.
It's probably the Bluetooth, if we're diagnosing this. It's totally fine, and we can keep going, obviously, but it's likely the Bluetooth. Podcasting, I've learned over the years, hates Bluetooth. When we record anything, I used to use Skype. Bluetooth was awful.
Yeah.
And this program here hates Bluetooth.
Are you in wired headphones? Is that what you're doing?
Old school.
Okay,
Super
cool.
Old school. So yeah, if you want to turn your video off, you can. You can leave it on. Obviously, whatever you like. I just
hit a button. Is it currently off? Do you see me?
Yeah, I see you.
Oh, I hit a button I thought turned it off. I think it just turned it off for me.
I mean, I can turn it off myself on my side. Here, done. You're off.
Done. I'm off.
Is the semester over?
Yes and no. So I'm done with students. I submitted my grades. Oh, was it Monday? Yeah.
That's the title of your new book, right? Done with Students?
Done with Students. This is true, yeah.
Inside look of your career as a teacher.
Yeah, I've been done with students a few times in the sense of that I don't spend my days with them.
Yep.
Never quite gotten sick of them. But I am done with students right now because it's winter break.
Right.
I have some meetings. So I was at a meeting last night.
Last night?
Yeah. It was important stuff, but it was a little dense.
Right.
And I've got one tomorrow and today, just fielding some emails.
Gotcha. Yeah. I don't know if you remember this, and I don't expect you to, but my graduate school classmates and I visited your home in Philly in 2016 or 15, I believe.
100% remember it, yeah. I'm sitting in that room where I talked to you.
So you're still in the same place?
Still in the same place, but we also have a studio down at Bach, which is like a former Votech school here in South Philly, and pretty wonderful woman who's like both a real estate investor and like patron of the arts, like bought it, and it's studio buildings now. So we have a space in there, and we just kind of bop back and forth.
Excellent.
Yeah.
At the time, it was part of a studio tour for us that included you and Gina, Martha Rich, and one or two others. I don't remember the other. This is rough. This is 10 years ago now. I remember Gina telling us about having just worked with Macy's on a tote. Apparently, it was a big deal, if I remember correctly. Do you remember that?
I think you might have
misremembered.
Sublimated two things. Let me think. So She probably just did a tote with Blue Q, who she works with periodically throughout the years, and she's done a few totes. I'll go through all of her entire tote history. Let's see. Blue Q.
She's the most with the totes.
The mostest with the toastest.
I'll work on that.
Yeah, two dads trying to work out a bad play on words.
Seriously.
And then she's done some with Whole Foods back when she did a whole bunch of the Whole Foods branding stuff years back. And so it was probably one of those two. Okay. And then we did the Macy's Flower Show years back.
That's it. That's what she said. That's what she was talking about. I remember her saying the Macy's Flower Show.
Yeah, I remember that specifically, breaking out that, because we were literally just kind of going through the studio and being like, here's the thing, right? That just happened to be the thing that was like in the flat files. It was a long time ago. I can't remember the year that we did the Macy's Flowers Show, but it was like the year before Chris Buzelli did it, the year after Olaf Hajek did it.
Right.
And I remember one of your classmates, who thankfully I don't remember, definitely note it in a negative way that it was not a recent job. Like, you know, kind of like, oh, who are these has-beens, like whipping out work from like a decade ago. Okay. And it was one of those wonderful, I always welcome a good check to the ego.
Well, thank God it wasn't me.
No, it wasn't you.
Okay. I think I kept my mouth shut. Yeah. I mean, a lot has happened since then. Kids, congrats. You have two now, correct?
Yeah. 16 and 12.
16?
Oh, wait, 17 now and 12. Yeah.
So then there was a child there. I just don't remember. I don't remember it.
She might have been with my mom. She might have been with my mom for the day. I think if she was that, she would have been.
All right.
She would have been super young. And my mom was doing, or we had a nanny that was with us then. We might have made sure that the place was clear.
So, wow. I thought that my children were older than yours, but we're basically in the same boat, you and I, because my oldest is a freshman at Temple. He probably shouldered you accidentally on the way to the the food mart or whatever. He's 18 and my daughters are 15.
Oh, cool. What's your oldest studying?
Right now he's focused on like video, film. He's going to go into Klein, the Klein school. But of late he's been mentioning how into marketing he's getting. So we're just kind of, we're not really saying yay or nay to anything that he's saying. We're just sort of going like, oh, that's interesting. You should explore that. So we'll see. We don't know.
Yeah.
We don't know where he's going to end up.
Sounds like good parenting. Yeah. The, gently guiding, letting them make their own decisions. Yeah. I get that.
Yeah. I want him to stick, because he's very creative with film and all that. And I wanted him to stay with that at least, just kind of maybe minor in it, or just take some classes with it, not leave it alone totally and shift entirely to marketing. So we'll see. I don't know. Yeah,
there's that.
Still early.
Yeah, just to get into the inside of Temple, Klein has that advertising program, which is, I think it's a BA, not a BFA.
Right.
Because they have some graphic design components, but then they've got like, I don't know, whatever advertising people study, psychology, how to get people to buy things. Yeah.
Wait, you're not kidding, are you?
No, I don't think so.
Wow. All right, I'll take that class later. I could use a couple lessons probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and then obviously, so there's kids, there's COVID, you moved from University of the Arts to Temple, your agent retired, and then there's all these other projects that you worked on in between. So you're still in the same place. Where are you from originally?
So for anyone that knows, where are you living now, by the way? I know you're right in the area.
Yeah, so I'm from Baltimore. You went to MICA. And then you're in Philly, so that's just kind of telling me that you're from the area, maybe. I currently live, hop, skip, and a jump from Kennett Square, which is about an hour southwest of you.
Oh, yeah. Okay. We used to, longtime members down at Longwood Gardens, and would head down there a lot for that.
Yeah, we're going there on Friday.
Sweet. And then
for the light show.
You're a little more into illustration history than I am. Love illustration history, but you're like, I would say, real into it. And so being by the Brandywine is probably extra special.
Oh my God. I love it. I love every minute of it. It's fantastic. Yeah.
So let's see. So I'm originally from Upper Darby, which is in Dullaghan.
Okay. Sure.
And my folks are from Southwest Philly and then moved out there for the lovely suburban school systems.
You don't have the Philly accent. Impressive.
Why, thank you for that. Because there's times when I feel like I have marbles in my mouth it's nice to hear that it's not coming across at this exact moment.
What is the substance that comes out of your sink faucet?
Oh no, we're not going to go there.
I'm just asking.
I'm not going to answer that, but I'm going to tell you that in July I do enjoy a nice water ice.
There it is. Yeah. That's what I was trying to get out of you.
Yeah.
So I guess that makes sense. I guess Micah makes some sense, right? Geographically, it just feels like it was closer to you where you were growing up. Why Micah for undergrad?
I just felt like I knew Philly. I was coming into Philly also for like Saturday school classes at University of the Arts where I'd eventually teach. I took figure drawing with Al Gurry, who I haven't checked because PATH has kind of changed quite a bit in the last 2 years. But like he for a long time was head of painting and drawing at PATHA. And
Pennsylvania Academy of Fine Arts.
Thank you for doing that. Yeah.
Right.
Which is yet another art school on Broad Street.
Yeah.
And he was teaching high school kids figure drawing at University of the Arts in a corner classroom that would eventually be my classroom that I can almost see my house from. So between those things, I just felt like I was, even though I grew up in Upper Darby, which is officially over the city line, it borders the city. I feel like I knew Philly real well, and I just wanted something new. Yeah. I didn't know much about Baltimore, and Baltimore was at least not Philly, so went down there.
Is that where you met Gina?
It is where I met Gina, yeah. I gotta ask, where are you from in Baltimore?
Oh, gosh. Well, I was born in the city, but I didn't stay there for very long. When I was a baby, we moved out to like the Parkville, Kearney, Cub Hill sort of area, just outside the county, and then just kept sort of working our way further and further away from the city. So then after that was like Lutherville, Timonium, Cockeysville, Towson, Bel Air, ultimately. And then I went to RISD.
You moved a lot.
Yeah, we moved a lot.
You mentioned Parkville. I can connect that to Micah. I'm coming through Micah, and I think Gina and I were together at this point. It was either sophomore year. Mm-hmm. Was filling out my gen eds, and you know the way we used to do it, like by standing in like a classroom or an auditorium, and you have to wait in line to like register for your class before the internet was around.
Yeah.
There was a developmental psychology course that looked kind of interesting. I think at that age, whatever it was, like 1920, I viewed everything like uber myopically. I was like, what can this do for me? And so like I viewed developmental psychology. I was like, oh, this is a way for me to like understand my recently past self a little better. Right. And then the first day of classes comes around. I remember walking in the classroom kind of like being 5 steps in and realizing that it was an art ed class. With a few notable exceptions of very, very cool people that I went to school with. The art ed people were like a little bit more square than like the rest of the art school people. So like you knew it when you were in like an art ed classroom.
Right.
By the time I got to the end of the semester, I was like, I think I'm going to do this. And so I hopped in, and they have like a 5-year MAT program there. So it's kind of like you get your grad degree like in just 1 extra year by taking extra credits. And so I was never like a person that was like, I want to be an art teacher, which a lot of the folks in the art ed program were. Like they had this really great like high school experience, and they were trying to relive it, which is not the case for me. Before I knew it, I was an art ed major, and we'll get to the end of like our 5th year. We got our degree, and we're looking at like where we're going to work. And I ended up teaching art at Parkville High School. Which yeah. I taught there for 3 years. They were wonderful years, and then we had to get out of Baltimore. It was like Gina's career was kind of growing, and Brooklyn was looking more and more appealing.
So you did the Brooklyn thing before you went to Philly?
Yeah. Moved up to Park Slope.
Of course.
It's like when we first graduated, Julie and Alan had somewhat recently taken over the program down at Micah, and Gina was working as his assistant. She was kind of on this assistant track. She had interned with Whitney Sherman. She had interned and then assisted. Oh, nice. Yeah, I saw her on your list, but I haven't had a chance to listen to her podcast.
Yeah, she's great.
She is great. I think she started as an intern, then maybe went on to assistant with Dave Plunkert and Joyce Hesselberth at Spur Design.
Sure.
And then she assisted Julian, and Julian had just recently moved from his amazing loft up in Tribeca, and he and Victoria had this like beautiful brownstone in Bolton Hill there in Baltimore, and we were just like, sometimes I would go help her out, so sometimes I'll say he's had like his like lifetime of illustrations in these like unorganized flat files, so we were kind of like, let's put all the Rolling Stone covers like in one file, and then maybe take like all that, take all these other things and put it in another file.
Oh my gosh.
But he was always like really encouraging of Gina to move up to New York, and it was kind of like, get up to the big leagues. And we had like a certain resistance to that, and then eventually we came around to it.
What I find funny about this conversation already is, and we're going to get to it in a hot second, is how already like you've basically just slipped into telling us about Gina and less about you. It's wonderful how intertwined the two of you are and how your careers have connected for so long. And it's just funny. I don't even know if you know that. I don't even know if you recognize the fact that you're just talking about Gina, which is great. Let's talk about Gina. That's nothing wrong with it. I just find that to be really charming.
I'll do it if you let me. Yeah. I do warn my students when I don't lead with my own work, but of course in the classroom, all of us are going to land up talking about our own work at some point. Yeah. I do warn them, like, listen, I'm not schizophrenic. When I talk about my studio, it's going to be a lot of we, and there's only one of me, but there's two of us. Yeah.
So yeah, you and Gina obviously have maintained a collaborative creative practice for 3 decades now, by the way. I know it differs day to day, week to week, project to project, but how do you work together? I read that it's a sort of artistic dialogue, one artist responding to the other. That's lovely, and that's exactly what I would write in my website if my wife and I are working together on our work, but the reality would not be as flowery. But maybe it is for you guys.
That's definitely more about paintings that are bound for a gallery, right? So those don't have to have a defined outcome, which is the real beauty of them, right? And so there truly can be like a conversation, and you don't know where that conversation is going to land. That's the whole point of them. But illustrations, they need to hit a mark at the end of them. So those are a little more, and this is a process we've arrived at over time. Usually one of us will take lead, meaning just on the pragmatic side, like that person will lead on communication. And if that's in email, it's usually in emails. So they're the one drafting the emails, and maybe we're having a quick conversation before the email, but they're the one doing it. Then on sketches, again, like one of us is probably going to take lead on a sketch. Sometimes we're passing them back and forth in like a true kind of like spitballing session, but like more often it's like, one person does a sketch and they either draw on the other person's style, or they kind of say like, I hacked this in here. Can you like draw out this section of the sketch in the way that you draw? Right. And then it just kind of follows through unfinished like that, which used to be like, passing canvases and pieces of paper back and forth when our illustrations were fully analog. And now they're either digital or tradigital. Yeah. It's just Dropbox and things back and forth.
And I know you know this, and this is I've mentioned these couples before on the podcast, but this is very much in line with what so many sort of like husband wives or partners have done over the years. Most famously of late, I would say, is Leo and Diane Dillon.
Yeah.
Alice and Martin Provenson, for anybody who likes mid-century work. You can't really tell who did what, but you can kind of tell with you guys. I mean, who's one? When I look at the work that you and Gina create, there's a combination of flatness, of a graphic flatness, and a much more sort of botanical art looking rendering. I hate that word, but that sort of thing. So who's who?
Yeah, we'll just use the words like flat and volumetric, which occasionally will leave like there's occasionally like an advertising bro who's like, what? But most people get that language. Yeah. So going back to art school, like I studied painting, not illustration. Gina studied illustration, so we would just like trade notes at the end of each day. Mm-hmm. I didn't have, coming into school, like I had a wonderful teacher in high school, but like she wasn't great at communicating what illustration was about. So I came into art school with like this kind of low view of illustration being like, I don't know, some nerdy stuff. And Gina was getting like some really cool stuff in her illustration classes, and we became aware of American illustration. So like my eyes were opened up like, oh, illustration can be rad. Yeah. And I was throwing in all this painting ideas at her. And so we kind of had this dialogue that would just throw together. We both loved our art history courses. And so even the types of paintings that we weren't doing, we were like just really stoked on like other types of painting. Right. And when we first started collaborating, it was like, let's throw as much of that in there as possible. So we're like, oh, Franz Klein has cool brushstrokes. Let's do that. Let's do this. Let's do this. Let's do this. That's how I even started painting like volumetrically. I was doing a little bit of that in my own work, and the idea of like painting in like a quote realistic style was just sort of like, it was like something to bounce off of other types of painting. It wasn't like, it wasn't a real focus of mine outside of like drawing class when you're supposed to just like really render the hell out of something. But it became a focus because I loved art history, and there's so many hours of art history that I could reference that way. That carried through to what we do today.
What you and Gina are doing is counter to what most illustrators these days hear, or not even these days, but over the last handful of years are hearing, in terms of like, what is it that you should be doing with your work stylistically? You should slot into one style. You should focus on one genre or one type of client. As someone who teaches young artists and illustrators, who's been in this business for as long as you have, do you feel that expanding one's field of vision with respect to clients and revenue streams is no longer required, but necessary? I started with style, then I kind of went with something else, but that's
no, I got it. I got it. Yeah,
you got it, right?
Yeah, I got it. Yeah,
okay.
And I like that you pointed, because I was like, oh, I got to talk about style first, and then like what the style is applied to. But let me talk about style first, because even that, like, we have. Like, our portfolio right now is more stylistically broad than it ever has been. And that's like, so for instance, like the easiest thing to point to is like, I'll render things that are just all like my real mark. Yeah. That wasn't the case. Like that wasn't the case for like a long time with our collaborative paintings. We never isolated that part of it. And so even like, we always had a Gina portfolio because she was an illustrator before I was. And so like her parts always pulled out into her work. I never pulled mine out into like something separate because I didn't want to. Yeah. But then I was actually talking with a friend of mine who has a branding business here in Philly, and he actually pitched the idea. He was like, why don't you just do something simple? Like, do something that's like uber usable. And I was cooking a lot at the time, and so that's kind of like where we were doing some food work, but I was like, let me just make it just about the food, not about the food plus all these other things. And then that led to some other work. And so there's some parts of our portfolio now that are like just my parts, which stylistically are a jump from like the collaborative work. So it kind of organically got there, which is, I think, the way I handle it with my students. Like, I think that the idea of like the pitch they make to the world being stylistically unified is still, I'd say, the best path for someone who's, just launching their career, because it's the best way to get people to listen to you, because you're like saying something pointed and concise. Mm-hmm. And then, we've always been lucky to have great role models, and like Melinda Beck's such a great role model for this idea of like stylistic, diversity. And she came to it the same way. Like, she evolved through all these different kind of thoughts over time. Mm-hmm. And it's not like anyone sits down one day and is like, I'm going to invent a new style. That would be probably a really bad way to do it, because it probably wouldn't come across as genuine. Mm-hmm. The reason why we've done so many different things, and it's actually something I almost advise against. It's just like, part happenstance, like we just never really fell into a niche where people just kept calling us for something. Right. And then part, we had short attention spans. Like when we had like so much work, we had to turn things down. We were always taking like the new thing, because it was just cool to see our stuff like on a new thing. A lot of it's not even our portfolio anymore, but like, it's like, oh, like a snowboard, a mural, sneaker. And it was just like grabbing stuff because it was cool to see our, before you could just mock it up on whatever you wanted. Right. And before, like, there's all that print on demand places, which kind of broke my heart, because it was like we would do jobs just to see our stuff on a pillow, just to see our stuff on a shower curtain. And now it's like anybody can do that. Now, reflectively looking back, I was like, oh, we probably should have like fallen into a niche and just really gone all in on like one thing, so that when people thought of us, they would be like, oh, those are the people that do that thing. And I don't think we really occupy that space in anyone's mind right now.
Yeah, I mean, there's no right or wrong answer to this, I don't think. There's just, people's opinions based on their experiences. I tell illustrators that I mentor, I tell them to widen the net. Widen the net, but if you don't catch anything, if you don't feel comfortable going in one direction or another, as far as clients go, as far as where your work could go, fine. But at least explore it. At the very least, think about it. For example, I hear from illustrators all the time, like, I just want to be a children's book illustrator. Okay, that's fine. But that doesn't preclude you from maybe exhibiting your work at a gallery, or doing greeting cards, or home goods, packaging, puzzles. There's so many other places that your work could go. And I just feel like, especially these days, it's been this way, honestly, since the internet. It's been this way for about 20 years. the more you, another word that's like so charged, but the more you diversify your outreach, obviously the better off your creative practice will be or can be. Am I wrong?
Yeah, I take it from a slightly, and maybe this is the way you do it too, you just didn't say it, but like, I like to actually not even start with like, what's your market, right? What do you want to apply to? I just start with like core values, core interests, your history, your past, who are you as a, who are you? And then we eventually land up on like, oh, you're a storyteller. You really love to get into characters. You like to hold on to your childlike qualities. And what I'm doing is I'm building the base for someone who's probably going to have the conversation about like kids books. And they're probably already there, but it kind of undergirds that decision of like, this is why you're here.
Right.
And then what you've done is then you can kind of go like, what else allows you to apply these interests? And then it does all the things that you just said, greeting cards. And we might even go further where it's like, what about if no one's contacting you? Is there anything that you could make happen? And that's where maybe you get into like, do you want to have a shop on your website? Do you want to table places? Mm-hmm. Do you want to make zines that'll let you kind of like get to be a better storyteller, building out that muscle of narration,
right.
But
a writer.
Yeah, but you can do it without having, if your agent hasn't worked out yet, or if no one's taken your emails yet on your kids book, like you can publish that zine, you could table with that zine. So I usually go through that of like, kind of like, what are your core interests? How does that manifest itself in a variety of different markets? But it's basically the same thing that you just described. Is you got to throw a bunch of fishing lines in, and you go with the one that gets a nibble.
I tell illustrators all the time that I think it's a mistake to think about the client first and you second. You should be first, the client should be second. And it's not even about thinking of the client and what the client wants, because that's an impossibility. Like there's no way to know exactly what clients want. Often clients don't even know what they want. So what I tell illustrators to do is to focus on what it is that they want to do, what kind of work do they want to do, and elevate the artistry, elevate the quality bar so that the whole body of work is solid top to bottom. You do that and you get your work out there, emailing, social media, and all that stuff, the clients will come to you. Like you want to create a body of work that will attract clients, preferably different kinds of clients, and not create work you think they're going to like. Because I think that leads a lot of illustrators, especially in the children's book space, to frustration, because they're creating stuff that they think other people are going to like, but they don't really like it, but they think it's fitting the market.
Yeah. So you're coaching folks who are building portfolio pieces specifically.
Right.
Yeah, I do. That's definitely a concern of mine, in instructing, especially seniors. But I guess I'm doing another thing too of trying to. I'm speaking toward that idea of like the client to artistic balance, right? Like your priorities versus the client's priorities.
Right.
And so I'm doing what you're saying. We're definitely concerned with like getting some great pieces that are going to attract the attention you want in your portfolio. But I'm also doing like maybe trying to build that skill set of being able to please the client while pleasing yourself. Mm-hmm. Like illustrators should all be excited about boundaries, right? Like that's why we're doing this and not gallery work, which is, not as hemmed in by boundaries, right? So we should see boundaries and get excited by how to do our thing within them. And so like when I'm doing like, let's say like a junior assignment, right, that has like these really specific parameters that the students need to hit, I'm then encouraging them to flip that around and be like, what do you want to do within those parameters? Like, what's the you part?
Right.
Because as an illustrator, like let's play that out, right? Not school. You're out there, you're an illustrator. You get art direction in. If you totally do that art direction, you're like, I'm being a good illustrator. I'm doing what they told me to do. You might deliver that illustration, and the thing that the person didn't tell you to do, but was implicitly like there, was like, be you. I hired you, not someone else.
For sure.
And so I think I've done that as a young illustrator, and I've seen other illustrators do that. Like young illustrators do that, where it's like you hit the job specs on the nail, but you forgot to be you, so therefore like you didn't make a great illustration. But then to flip it around, like I've also done this myself, and I've also seen young illustrators do this where it's like they ignore the art direction and they're like, look at this rad thing I made. It's so cool. It's exactly what I want to do. And the art director's like, yeah, like it's not what I need. So you have to juggle both things at once.
Yeah.
And that's the real beauty of the game. And that's, like when students get that and they get in that niche of like I'm not an art director, but sometimes as teachers we play art directors, right? And we play the role of it in a role-playing game that's supposed to benefit the student. So it's like holding their feet to the fire of the parameters of the assignment, right, while also like, you know, encouraging them and cheerleading them to like, you know, get weird with it in whatever way is appropriate to them.
Speaking of role-playing, and Chris Buzelli, who you mentioned earlier,
did I
years
mention
ago,
Chris?
You did.
Oh, he did the Macy's job.
The Macy's thing.
Yeah.
Great illustrator. Great illustrator. Hey, Chris, if you're listening. And Sujin. Buzelli. So, Chris, at the time I was the art director at Simon & Schuster. Chris was teaching a class at RISD. And so we got in touch. I'm not quite sure how we got in touch. Maybe we knew each other, and I emailed him or whatever. I had this idea of pretending to be an art director, which I was. So I was going to be an art director. The class, Chris's class, they were illustrators. Chris was their agent. Chris and I devised a class in which I think it was like a third of the semester where I pretended to be their art director. Chris was the agent and they were the illustrators. And so I gave them a manuscript through Chris. I was like, hey, Chris, my name's Giuseppe, you know, role playing. I'm looking for an illustrator for this manuscript. Do you have anybody in mind? And so the students would create an illustration they pick a spread, any spread of their choosing, send me the sketch. I would review, send my notes back to the student, CC Chris as if he was the agent, in case the student needed any like translation of my notes, making sure that they knew what I was looking for, what adjustments I wanted them to make, whatever. And then they finished the art. They created the art, sent it back to me. I made my notes, sent it back to them. It was a great little back and forth. I really looked, like I mentioned it to the creative director, like we should do more of this and we should actually do this with a cover for a middle grade. Whoever like did the best of this class would get the job for the cover. So it would give a student an actual job and some money. But the creative director didn't want to do it at the time. He thought it was too much of a liability, like as in maybe the entirety of the class no one would do a good job. So then we'd be stuck, which I didn't agree with.
What was the role of the agent there? Were you like negotiating like a pretend fee too?
Yeah, we would throw in we'd just sort of pretend like, hey, I'm thinking this is the job. Here's the schedule. So like the students would see what the schedule could potentially be if they were hired that day to illustrate a children's book. Rights. We'd talk a little bit about rights as well. And
yeah, very cool.
Yeah, it was fun. It was really fun. This is many years ago. By the way, your audio, every now and then it goes kind of like back and forth where it goes normal. And then it goes into this like almost like you're talking into a tin can, which reminds me of the song like Video Killed the Radio Star.
Okay.
Where the guy's like, so you got a little bit of that going.
Okay.
It's fine. And I'm just acknowledging it because I'm pretty sure the listeners are hearing that.
Okay.
And I want to acknowledge that I am also hearing it. They're not crazy. But it's totally fine. There's nothing you need to worry about.
Apologies. I've got a button I push every time I say something stupid, and it just puts that voice over it. So it's yeah.
No, maybe it's not even you. The episode before this with Elena Giovinazzo, she's a literary agent. It sounds like I'm talking into a tin can. I'm not a big fan of this program that I'm using to record this podcast, but I'm going to leave it for now. Maybe next year I'll look for something else. The audio has not been great. I've not been a satisfied customer over the last 6 months.
Yeah, my audio is coming through these Bose headphones, and I don't know if they're any good, but we'll roll with it, I guess.
This podcast is produced by the Illustration Department, a global leader in online education for illustrators. Visit illustrationdept.com for offerings like mentorships and portfolio reviews, testimonials, our alumni showcase, our best-selling Substack, and more. That's illustrationdept.com. And now, back to our conversation. I noticed in 2025, Gina posted a grand total of 0 times on Instagram. You've posted far more, though. Coming in at a whopping 3.
Okay, yeah. There we go.
Yeah. One of the posts you had...
my peace out post. Yeah.
Was that your, like, I'm on Blue Sky?
Yeah, which I I did for a while and then got tired of.
Yeah, I think that's the theme for most people.
Yeah.
Like Blue Sky got all exciting for about 2.5 weeks, and then everyone I talked to about Blue Sky, they all say the same thing. It's dead. There's nothing going on over there.
It was also the echo chamber thing. Like, if we could just talk about that for a moment. Like, I was looking.
Talk about whatever you want to talk about, man.
Cool. Yeah. So like,
want to talk about the Phillies for 35 minutes?
You could, but I got nothing on any of the ball sports.
Next time with somebody else from Philly.
Yeah, I wanted Blue Sky to be like my new Twitter. So like Twitter was different things for different people. So like we're close with Jess Hische, right? So it's like she was so great on Twitter. She loved Twitter because she's a word person. She's an image. Jess Hische. Jessica.
Oh
Hische.
yeah, sure.
So like she was so.
I acquired her first picture book.
Oh, nice. That's great.
Tomorrow You'll Be Brave. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Sorry.
That's a rad book. Love that book. But she was like, she both like took and gave so much to Twitter and was really great on that format, right?
Right.
It was never that for me. For me, it was just news, right? It was just like how I would keep up with politics, right? And since that kind of went down the toilet, like it was like I've just been looking for like something to play that role in my life, and Blue Sky was just too much of an echo chamber, and like it was nice to have like not like a bunch of like toxic Nazis on there, but like you're also like I need something that's not overly rosy, and I think that's kind of what it was.
Yeah, I hear you. I man, gosh, I wish 2012 Twitter was still around because that was such a great time for social media. Do you say anything to your students about using social media? Because it doesn't seem like you or Gina really do.
It's evolved over time, but at this exact moment, I coach them in best practices, but the best practices are not going to take you anywhere unless you want to be an influencer, which is I don't shit on that. Like I think that it's a legitimate choice for folks. Like I couldn't imagine myself, but if someone wants to target for that, like that's what that tool is aimed for now. It's not really built out for an illustrator to pursue like a traditional client-based illustration career. So I've talked about like IRL is it, right? Like, and that's really what the basis of our career was always in-person relationships. I'm actually kind of excited that that's all the more important now. We used to be way more active on social media, but it was never like our main thing for getting work. So like I used to do like a do as I say, not as I do situation of like kind of coaching on best practices for social media. But now it's not even. It's come around to like when I would do it as I say, not as I do. I would say like this is what I do, and what I do is having long-standing relationships and trying to form new relationships with people, and those have become clients over time. Little story about how that started. All right, here we go, anecdote-ville. So when I was just boyfriend of Illustrator, not illustrator yet, I was Gina's +1 for, I want to say like a decade before even having the thought of like, hey, we should do illustrations. Okay. So this was like the American Illustration Party, maybe Society. Right. AIGA events were really hot at the time. I had no skin in the game, so I was just going to these events to enjoy myself, enjoy the company of other people, and all those other people were other illustrators, but a lot of art directors too. And so by the time, like day one for me of like, oh, I want to try to get illustration work, I had put in ballpark a decade of time of just trying to be good company. And that is still my advice for how to navigate these social / professional events is just be good company. Don't be an angler. Like no one wants that. Yeah. So that was how we carried ourselves even once we like decided we were collaboratively illustrators. I don't know. That has its limitations, of course, because you only get so many times to socialize. I'm older. I don't socialize as much. But I don't know. Right. I don't know what other options are like available. It's like you can get a rep, which we had for a long time, and maybe we'll get again one day. Mm-hmm. You can cold email just like everybody else. Right. You can post on Instagram, and you're going to get if you're lucky, if you get in the teens for engagement. I don't know. Maybe some folks are getting 20%. I doubt it. Right. You can go in with the LinkedIn folks. LinkedIn's so tempting because it's like, it removes the fake idea of Instagram and other social media platforms being like, look, I'm just being social, I'm just being myself, but I'm really just trying to get work. It's very like, trying to get business, but trying to pretend that you're not trying to get business. Whereas LinkedIn at least pulls down that veil. Outside of that though, I don't know how, like, I don't have any case studies to point to of like, this is the big LinkedIn person that's doing awesome on there. So other than, again, people trying to establish themselves as influencers, I have like zero case studies of anyone killing any social media platforms right now.
Nor do they have to, in my opinion. I think between LinkedIn and Instagram, you're good on the social media front. If you want to join other platforms, obviously, do what you need to do. But yeah, I think Instagram is the place that everybody checks. And by everybody, I mean these potential clients, these art directors. People check Instagram when they're waiting for their popcorn to pop in the microwave. What do? They sit there and they check Instagram. They're not checking LinkedIn. No one's checking LinkedIn. They check Instagram. So that's where their eyeballs are. The way I sort of frame it up with illustrators is, where are the eyeballs of these art directors sitting the most? Where are they looking the most? And the answer is their email inbox. Okay, so now mandatory, you have to email them. What's the second place? Instagram. Why? Because people are human, and these days people just check Instagram like every 5 seconds, every chance they get. Most people anyway. So put your work there. What's the third place they look? LinkedIn. Why? Because art directors want better jobs. So they're on LinkedIn, making sure that their resumes are up to date, making sure that they're making the right connections with other people. That's why I was on LinkedIn. The minute LinkedIn started, I jumped on. I think I was at Simon & Schuster at the time. But I would follow other publishers and creative directors, and I wanted to get on their radar. I wanted them to be on my radar. Those are the top three.
Yes to all that, yeah. But I got a but. Like,
give me some buts.
So everyone's throwing around this phrase now, like Instagram's a portfolio, right? So what is that?
I don't agree with that at all. I think it's terrible advice.
It doesn't sound like it, yeah. So but let's play it out. When people say that, what they mean is that you have to have something there for when someone looks you up, right? Mm-hmm. It seems what you're advocating for is like an active engagement with LinkedIn on one of the, like, what I would say is like kind of an old formula of like, I got to post every day, or nope. I got to post periodically, even like every week, right? And
nope.
The ROI on that seems miserably low. And so I'm in the camp of like, it's a portfolio, like for when someone looks you up, because the ROI you'd be looking for with any type of regular engagement is that you're going to come up, like you said, like people look at Instagram, right? But like the likelihood that they're going to see your work is Instagram's just become like the shittiest strip mall in the world, So like it's maybe if you were like selling stuff, I don't really know how the algo works. That's another problem with it. It's like it's so opaque.
Right.
But like, it just from my own looking at it, like I look at it less and less. So to your point of like, while you're like, if art directors are looking at when they're popping popcorn, I would argue less than ever, because they have to be getting the same experience that I am, which is a crap experience, right? It's just not fun to look at anymore. Cause you're just selling me like, like shitty pants. So like, best practice right now, I'd say is like, get like a solid group of work up there, engage in stories, so like stories is still moderately fun, like throw stories up of your life and your work mixed together. And when you get really cool things to share, like sure, do a new post, but like don't hang your hat on like it being like the thing that's going to break you through, because you just set yourself up for disappointment.
Yeah. So no, I don't advocate for posting all the time. In fact, I tell illustrators, you don't work for Instagram. Don't stress that you haven't posted in a couple of weeks. Post whenever you want to post. It is your schedule. Post however you want, however much you want, however little you want. Instagram and LinkedIn, that's not the we all focus on posting. Like, well, when I post, I don't get as many likes as I want, and it's not even about the posting, it's about the presence. Just have a presence. However you want that presence to look is entirely up to you. If you want to post every week, every other week, every day, everyone's an adult. Everyone can make their own decisions on how they outwardly use it. But what LinkedIn and Instagram do so well is the connection thing. So you were referencing earlier about like you want to, meet people and make these connections. So those two platforms are where most art directors hang out. generally. So I think that's a pretty objective statement. So with LinkedIn, you can find the art directors, and if they have a page, follow them. Keep following as many art directors as you possibly can, and other kinds of clients. You don't have to connect with anybody on LinkedIn. You can just follow them. It's an option. The more people you follow on LinkedIn, the better your search results will be when you look for art directors on LinkedIn. Same goes with Instagram. The more art directors you follow on Instagram, the more likely it is that they will follow you back, so that when you do post a story, your platform, your story will be at the top of some art director's Instagram when they do open up the app. So it's a discoverability tool in that way. Not about like, let me post, hey, look at me, look at me. It's more about like, there's a lot of information to mine in both of those platforms if you know how to do it.
Yeah, so that discoverability word, like, that's what I was saying is when someone searches for you, like they're not going to, the likelihood of them organically finding you without them getting your name from somewhere. They saw you at an annual, they met you at a party, right. and then they look you up. But the idea, there used to be organic growth that had nothing to do with IRL connection. I'm sure it's present for a few folks, in a few instances, but in the larger sense, it's not an expectation I would hold anymore.
Yeah, well, the IRL thing, unfortunately, unless you live in the Philadelphia, New York, Boston, San Francisco, London, it's not a reality for a lot of illustrators to go to any of those parties.
And I miss that so much. I remember back, like, lectures I used to give, I don't know, like mid-2000s to students. Like, I had a bunch of students back then that would be like, I want to live out in the country or whatever. And I'd be like, well, I advise against it. But let me tell you what to do right. if you do. And I would talk about, you remember Penelope Dullaghan, still a great illustrator, but used to have, I can't remember what her blog presence was, but she had this really cool blog presence. And then, of course, she started Illustration Friday, which was the first like prompt-based like illustration community that I ever saw. It might be the first prompt-based illustration community, just period. Where she would give out a prompt every Friday, which of course has become so commonplace. But so she lives, I don't know, I think in Illinois, but like not in like the greater Chicagoland. Mm-hmm. I could have that wrong, but that's what I think. And anyway, it wasn't like an illustration hub. And so she created an online hub around her own community in the social media days. Right. So like this idea of like the blog or the community blog, like I miss that so much. To me, like that was the zenith of like online socialization. Right. I'm just not sure, like I certainly can't think of a great way to do it right now.
What was the one that John Martz was behind?
I don't know. You tell me. I don't know if I knew that one.
It wasn't. I don't think it was drawn.ca, was it?
If it was, I wasn't up on it.
Yeah, these are Illustration Mundo, Illustration Friday, drawn.ca. There's a couple other ones that I use as an art director as resources to find illustrators.
That's cool. Yeah. I mean, there was Draugr that like Zim set up with a bunch of folks. There was one, I remember Gina used to do like a message board pre all these, like back in the 90s. That was like the first time she was maybe talking to like Taxali and like Scott Bakal and Jeff Soto was real active on that.
Yeah. What's up, Scott?
I can't remember what it was though, but yeah. So anyway, there's this lineage of like real ways that people connected that were really beautiful. And of course, like, social media supplanted all those. And what we really did without knowing it was we gave up the power of space, the power of connection to something that we had no control over. Yeah. And had its own motivations. And that's a Pandora's box. Like, I'm not going to say, like, I have no idea of how that would ever get back. I probably won't. Just looking at the reality on the ground of, like, it's not an awesome space to connect right now.
No, it's not. The one benefit, I can't believe I'm defending social media here, because trust me, of all the people you've ever met, I'm in the top 3 of folks who hate social media more than anybody else. Trust me on that. But it's a tool. Like, I don't love my hammer in my toolbox. It's dirty, it's cold, it's got splinters, but I use it because it's a tool and I can use it. I don't use it every day. This is what I tell illustrators too. Like, social media isn't something that you have to use every single day. It's like, just like you don't use a screwdriver every day. You use it when you need it. Same goes with social media. But one of the things that social media does provide, that is a thing, whether people admit it or not, is the social proof. Now, Not to say that you need 10,000 or 15,000 or 20,000 followers. You don't even need that many. 3,000, 1,000, just a collection of folks who, more than 1,000, let's say, let's put some concrete numbers on this, that are into your work, that can push an editor or an art director or someone over the fence, and if they're on the fence about hiring you for a project, because they can see that you are gaining the attraction of a community who all feel like you do good work. The social proof is important. I'm not saying it's the end all be all, and I'm not saying we all need to sweat to get it, but we can't ignore the fact that it is in play when clients, whether they admit it or not, are considering you for a job.
Oh, no, 100%. That is the reality, and that's definitely what we all need to acknowledge. I can give an exact example of that. I think it's come up twice. I can remember one of them, and I'm talking about is the follower count, where it actually, I think all clients are paying attention to it, but like there was 2 times where it became apparent to us. One of them was a Gina job that I don't think went through. It was an ad job, and they show you the mood board beforehand, and so they'll have like some of your past work on there. And this one had like past work, name, and follower count, just all listed right there. And so like she's in a Zoom with like the team, and there it is, just for everyone listed. Gina's follower count is decent. Like it's not huge, but it's decent. Mine's significantly lower. Mm-hmm. But it was like, I'm trying to think if she got to see the other folks that were on the pitch or not. But presumably they all had bigger follower counts, or this is a few years back. Okay. But yeah, so like it was that time when like the thing that we suspected happening, we got to see, obviously it's happening because here it is right in front of our face.
Yeah.
So yeah, totally. Like they're paying attention to follower count, but I guess there's a split between the world that is and the world that like should be, to the degree that like there are people listening to this that might hire illustrators. I think it's ridiculous for them to be looking at that, because that is a metric that is very dated at this point. Like it hasn't been
100%.
Yeah. And so like you're looking at this metric of like who cared about this person 5 years ago, and not a metric now. Because honestly, like within, you're like, let's take this like book publishing instead of advertising. Like folks are looking at follower count and they're going like, oh, you got 50,000 followers. That's 50,000 sold books. That's real. Nope. I get that. And maybe 5 years ago, a decade ago, that would have been true. Nowadays, like those people aren't seeing this person's post anyway. So like, like it's not true anymore.
Yeah. Yes.
But yeah, I'm not going to argue that it's, I'm not,
That's some nuance.
I'm not going to be the person saying social media is irrelevant. I'm just saying like, it's frustrating and it's so much less relevant than it used to be. And to play your hammer metaphor out, it's like, sure, it's a tool, but it's a tool that like when you started banging on that nail was an actual hammer. And then over the course of like the time that you got the nail banged in, it turned into like a Jello hammer that barely even hits the thing.
Nice one. I like that. You're not wrong. But every little bit helps, I think, just with every illustrator, whatever it is that people want to do, obviously do, but a combination of all of these things that we're talking about today, or some combination, whatever works for folks listening, can really help establish that career.
Oh, yeah.
Turning our attention over to the University of the Arts for a second. When the University of the Arts went bankrupt in like the most shocking and abrupt way possible, how did Tyler step in? Like, what was your role in all of it?
All right. So context, let's think.
This is happening in 2024 now.
Yeah. So I was 2 years removed from UArts at that time. I had taken a year-long sabbatical where I was officially still at UArts, but wasn't in contact. Right. And then I had been at Temple for a year. And I should just say, sometimes I'll say Temple. It's Tyler School of Art and Architecture at Temple University. So yeah, if anyone isn't familiar with the Philadelphia area, that's what I'm talking about. Mm-hmm. So emotionally, just for me, before I even speak for Tyler or Temple, like I invested, it was like 15 or 16 years of my life into that place. And so it was pretty crushing. I have this huge alumni base here in Philadelphia and broader who I was just feeling I was really feeling for.
Yeah.
And I was just moderately thankful that at least like as far as like specific individuals that were in school and had that yanked out from underneath them, like I wasn't yet in contact with any of them in any way that was other than like just sort of a spiritual connection through the institution. But I immediately talked to my colleagues and just said, like, we need to do something to help those people because they're just left out in the wind. Mm-hmm. And those people were students. We were focused on students. The idea of faculty and staff was something that we did a little bit of, but like it also felt like we're never going to be able to help everyone out. So for students, we met, what was that, like a Friday end of day, I think, that they put the news out, and we were meeting all weekend long. And then it took a little time to get all the dialogues together with everyone at Temple, but within like maybe it was like a week or so later, someone on the board of directors, with a lot of clout, had made it their mission, and so it came back down to us that we could continue forward with some of the plans that we had started to lay. Mm-hmm. We just knew how we wanted it to happen. That they had to be able to proceed without being set back. There's this whole dance that's very in the weeds for academia of like when you're taking in transfers of trying to get their courses to line up. Sometimes they don't. Sometimes students get set back, and that just sucks for them. We wanted to make sure that everyone came in seamlessly and graduated at the time that they expected to graduate, which is what happened.
Good.
So now that was last year's graduating class, included students that came in to Tyler just for their senior year. Oh, and then I guess the big thing was my year at Tyler, I was there writing an illustration program. So Tyler has graduated all these like really amazing illustrators over the years. Mm-hmm. They've done it through this graphic design program. They have a graphic and interactive design program that is very visual, and it allowed for that space. And so when they brought me in, the idea was like, let's make a space for the illustrators to go further into their practice without losing that wonderful connection between design and illustration that has really been like the heart of the place for forever.
Sure.
So I was working on that, working along with especially two of my colleagues, Kelly and Abby, and we had put in our new curriculum. And then what happens is it moves through the wheels of academia, which I've become really used to. It doesn't even bother me anymore that like you put stuff in, it goes through committee of approvals. Everything takes at minimum a year just to be approved. And then it's like you rise it up with your class. And so like it gets approved, and then that curriculum is what like a new incoming class of freshmen is like tied to. And so when you write curriculum, it doesn't even go all the way through the full cycle for 5 years, right? Before you're graduating your first group of kids that have like gone through that cycle. Right. We got the word from on high to make it ready. This was like whatever it was, like June. That thing that was supposed to happen 1 year from now / 5 years from now, can you make it happen by August in order to receive these kids? Of course, the answer was yes, because it was going to give them a place to land. Yep. I felt really strongly about the curriculum we developed, and so like I felt like it was going to be a good place for them to be. This year, I'll be graduating my first group that actually came up through our illustration curriculum that weren't. So when they landed, they had come through sophomore year at UArts, and so they will have had all of their junior and senior year at Tyler, which is like they're much more like Tyler students as opposed to my graduating class year was like. They had a great year with me. I really enjoyed it. But, like, they had 3 of their 4 college years at UArts, and that was the bulk of their experience.
Yeah, I mean, it's just sad about the University of the Arts on so many fronts. I've read recently that some, not all of the buildings, but seemingly like all but 2 or 3 of them have already been sold to commercial and residential purposes, which was my guess when it happened. I'm like, yeah, this is going to go to the highest bidder on the residential and commercial side. And but there are 2 buildings that were purchased by an organization that is dedicated to maintaining an artistic presence there, a footprint where they're going to have studios and affordable housing for artists. This is something I read a couple of days ago, so I can't remember the exact organization, but that's okay. But it's just like, I mean, this is the school that graduated Richard Amsel, who did the Indiana Jones posters. Helen Borten and Aliki Brandenberg were 2 very, very prominent children's book creators. And then, Brian and Jerry Pinkney, which everyone listening probably knows. I didn't even know about it when I was in high school, weirdly. I don't know why that is. I mean, I wasn't even that far away from it. I had I had a recognition or a name recognition problem or something. I don't know why it didn't come up in conversation when I was in high school, and it should have been. My art teacher was telling us about Pratt and RISD and Micah and SVA, but not University of the Arts. Like I didn't even, until I started studying illustration history, I wasn't even like fully aware that University of the Arts was like this giant, old, like venerable art school.
Yeah.
It's a bummer.
The school had some kind of direction management problems for before I even got there.
Sure.
To the point of like when you were in high school, you hadn't heard about it and you grew up down in Baltimore, to the point where I grew up just outside the city and like I wasn't interested in going there. So they had messaging problems going back.
Yeah.
And that's part of the reason why I split. But I'm not going to go into those.
No.
But to some of the story of
we're sort of pouring one out for the good parts of UArts.
And illustration was always one of the good parts there. It always was very strong.
Yeah.
It built that history of amazing alumni that just could go right up to the current era until the place closed.
Yeah.
They did that through great classrooms, great community. Mm-hmm. It was a great place to be in the illustration program there. Yeah. I mean, heartbreaking doesn't even describe it. Like, it's just crazy. I live like a half mile from there. And again, like I see alumni of mine from UArts Illustration. I see them multiple times every week. Like I can't just live my life in South Philly here and not see alumni.
Yeah. I
can't say enough how much that is my community here. And they made artists for my city. Like mm-hmm. to speak toward that idea of like the role that like UArts used to play. Like I think that some of that idea, if you didn't hear about it down in Baltimore, some of that's just like the Philly syndrome, the Philly shrug, like Philly. Going back, I think we've maybe come out of some of this history, but growing up by here, it was like this idea of like, it's really ingrained in us. Like if you're really good, like as an artist, you go to New York. If you're really good as a skateboarder, you go to California. But like no one stayed here. But then those things switched. Like you had pros start staying here because Love Park grew, like street skating grew. You had artists staying here, and it really transitioned to where it was like people were moving to the city that didn't grow up like in the tri-state area. Yeah. That happens at some point while I was in Baltimore or Brooklyn, and that's really made like for Gina and I, like that's what made this a real city to move back to. Whereas I was like happy to be gone from it for a while.
Yeah. And
then it's grown so much since then. Like if I meet someone in a bar and like they're not from the area and they decide to move here, like I'm definitely gonna pester them on like why'd you move here, and because I just love hearing those stories. Because it's always something cool. I just love that they chose this place that I love so much.
Yeah,
I think that UArts probably suffered from that small thinking of Philadelphia in the past, in the 80s, in the 90s, probably forever.
Yeah.
That I think we've mostly shook that yoke off. But now we're in this space where between the PAFA, the Pennsylvania Academy of Fine Arts, and UArts closing, we've got like 50% less art schools in Philadelphia. There's more across town by the Art Museum, and there's Tyler. And I don't want 50% less artists in Philadelphia. That's kind of this where I am. And so like running that program there, I kind of have this modest view of running a program. Like there's always these pushes to have like higher enrollment. I've tried to resist that. Like I feel like some of it's ego tied, some of it's money tied. I think that a more healthy way, and this is the way that I'm encouraged to do it at Tyler, is like what's the right size for this program? Like what's the right size that benefits the students? What's the right size for them coming out? Mm-hmm. But there is that countervailing thought of like, I want there to be a shit ton of illustrators in Philadelphia because that's the community that I like to live in.
I think that's the slogan for Tyler. I'm pretty sure I saw a sign when I dropped my son off.
It is.
We want a shit ton of artists in Philly.
Yeah, they're tolerant of my dirty mouth. I can't help it.
Well, dude, man, I mean, that's obviously a noble pursuit, and all the more power to you and your team and Temple and Tyler. And here's hoping that, here's hoping it grows, but obviously, very conscientious growth and not growth for the wrong reasons, but for the right ones.
Yeah.
Go Philly. Yeah, Philly's amazing. By the way, speaking of South Philly, my wife and I are going to be there on Sunday.
Oh, yeah, we'll bring you to town.
It's our annual Christmas or holiday dinner, the two of us. Now that our kids are older, as I'm sure you've experienced this, or you're experiencing this, you can go out.
Yeah. Philadelphia has a proliferation of wonderfully expensive places with great food right now.
Yeah, they do. We stopped by the Philadelphia Museum a couple months ago. First time for me. And it was amazing. I love that museum. It's so manageable. And their work is incredible. It's like the Met, except not as overwhelming.
Right. Yeah, I like that manageable. It's like earnestly said, but also a little bit of a slight. Like,
yeah, it's really small compared to all the New York museums. Yeah, no, it's great. It's great.
Yeah. Do you know they have those the artist membership level? Have you looked into that?
No.
Oh, it's like crazy cheap. Yeah, they offer an artist membership, and it's worth doing.
Oh, I think. Well, we're members of the Brandywine, and that's part of the whatever museum something association.
Okay.
If you're a member of one museum, you can go to other museums for free.
That's cool.
Yeah, I can't remember what it's called, and I don't feel like looking it up on my phone. Museum Association something. So we could talk more about Philly and all these other good things, but let's remember that we do have a lot of illustrators listening. Maybe some of them are feeling a little bit better about the birds now that they've won. What would you like to share with them directly? What piece of advice would you like to impart upon them? Something from you to them.
Oh gosh, advice. This is something. So like guidance and mentoring is like more how I view like my time in the classroom with students.
Same.
Advice, I get a little squirrely around. I lay it out every once in a while, but sometimes I feel maybe a little bit like it's a little like hitting someone over the head with something. But I do have a few things that I think have like been true for me that maybe come up like perennially.
Yeah.
So again, most of my time doing this, we do workshops at Icon, things like that. But most of my time, like trying to advise folks, is for folks that are like about to launch their professional career. And so one of the things I've been on is like their goals are so, in that case, so those folks that are about to launch a professional career, their goals are like making their first mark, right? Like getting their first clients. That is where their mind should be at the time. But then I try to plant the seed of like once you do that, right? You achieve that first goal, start to look a little down the line and plan the next goal after that, the next goal after that. Like where would you eventually like to go? And the thing that I'd like to make that I would recommend having through all of it is like staying curious, like not resting into like a set or fixed like view of the world, view of your art, view of like what you do. That's been something that's been true for me, like always like looking for something that I remember earlier, like I said, how like with clients, it was a overly squirrely kind of approach of like, I want to see my stuff on this. I want to see my stuff on this.
Right.
There was actually like something good there. And it was the idea of like that just that curiosity of what would it look like. And I think that even though like maybe I wish that I would have fallen into a groove of being like a certain client base, the part that I like about that is that you know, at 51, like I wake up and I'm stoked to make new stuff, right? Like to see what would happen and not even knowing exactly where it's going to land, just seeing it through.
Yeah. So
that's the first thing is like staying curious, not just it as like a bromide, but like actually something to live by at each era of your life. Like it's never okay. Again, I had really great role models this way. Julian Allen was really great this way. Like never falling into a thing of being like, I'm old now. I get to be calcified in my thinking. No. You don't get to be calcified in your thinking. You always have to stay flexible as an artist. And also, I would say, as like a decent human being. So me, I have young people around me all the time. That's what I like. It's one of the great things I love about it is like they're always like, you know, testing my boundaries of like, even like my Overton window within like the political spectrum is, I really love that. It's kind of like, oh, I think of myself as this way, real progressive. And then someone will like kind of show me like, oh, no, it actually, you know, here's this other idea that's to the left of you. And then I get to chew on that and consider that and bring that into my own value structure. I can't say how much I value that. And that all comes from that idea of staying curious. And the next thing is like you mentioned earlier, like Martha's studio tours. She does that, I think, better than anybody, but I try to do like a pale imitation of it. I've always done studio tours and I love it. And there's these things that come up every single time. I just did a tour of actually Martha's studio and some other folks in that same building. When we returned to the classroom and the students were like repeating back the things that really resonated with them, both from Martha and the other folks we saw, it was that idea of personal work and your own interests driving your illustration work. Again, like in my classroom, it's what we start with, and the look of the illustration and the target of the illustration kind of grows from there. But again, like once you're not in the classroom anymore, you kind of have to remind yourself of that, right? Like not to lose your way. And one way to not lose your way is just to have an active practice of making that's not for both the client, but also for a designated outcome. For both Gina and I, like that's been a thing. Mm-hmm. It's taken different shapes. So like for a while it was like, paintings that we put in galleries. For a long while it was our sketchbooks we would spend time in. But it's always been something. Our hands like haven't been dormant for a very well. Gina's especially. Gina's like a work machine, so Gina's hands are never dormant. Mine, because of the juggling act of teaching, like have never been dormant for long.
To learn more about Matt, visit ginaandmatt.studio. If you find value in this podcast, consider becoming a patron. In return, you can access bonus episodes, receive invitations to our Art Directors After Hours series, and get a 10% off discount code for all ID offerings. Become a patron by visiting patreon.com/illustrationdept. Thank you so much for listening. Until next time.